Welcome to Me Reimagined, a space where we step into the impossible version of ourselves, a version we only dream of, so we can create lives we love and the impact we are meant to make. If you've ever felt stuck, like you know change is possible, but something invisible keeps holding you back, then this episode is for you. Today, we're going to look at resistance, the energy of your thoughts, and how you can actually move through what's keeping you from stepping into the life that you want. I want you to walk away from this today with 3 things you can do to shift your energy so that you start seeing real traction, because it is absolutely possible, and it isn't rocket science. It's energy. So the other day, I was in the middle of a pep talk for a woman, telling her how she could step into her own agency and that would transform her life. And she blurted out a question in the middle of my pep talk that honestly I've heard more times than I can count. In fact, I've asked it more times than I can count, which is, isn't it selfish? And that question is part of a whole set of resistance questions that people ask when they're right at the edge of their extraordinary lives, but they're not quite ready to take a leap. Questions like, what would you do? Or what should I do? When you're pulling everyone you know, you're hoping that someone else will make the hard choice for you. There are also questions like, is it okay if I? Or what if? Insert disastrous thing that could possibly happen. If your journey is following a similar path to mine, you make a lot of statements like, when I have, I can. Or you say, if they would just, then I could. So today, we are going to get up close and personal with the resistance that you feel in your life, because you want that extraordinary life. You can taste it. In fact, you crave it like a triple chocolate cream cake. It reminds me of that episode of Miranda on Sex and the City where she eats the cake right out of the trash. That's how bad you want it. You spend your days dreaming about it, feeling frustrated that somehow other people seem to have it and you don't. It feels unfair. That resistance is an invisible wall between you and the version of yourself that you're trying to become. And it's made up of fears and judgments and responsibilities. And it shows up in a million different ways. Procrastination, overthinking, second guessing, feeling too busy. That was a favorite one of mine. Or not ready. And often you think that this resistance means something real. Like maybe it means you're not meant for more. But that resistance, it comes from being out of alignment with your integrity, from letting the fear, the judgment, the responsibilities own you. So let's say you're thinking about quitting your job and starting your own business. And you ask, isn't that selfish? Well, let's say, like that client I was giving a pep talk to earlier, that you're thinking about quitting your job and starting your own business. And then you start to feel like maybe that's selfish. You're not wondering that because you're deeply connected to what lights you up or because you're tapped into your purpose. You're asking that because fear is whispering in your ear. What if you fail? What if you can't pay for your kids' schooling? What if you step outside of the boundaries of what's acceptable and people think you're crazy? And if that's the case, what kind of person does that make you? You built this life, the house, the career. You should appreciate what you have, right? Right? But maybe, just maybe, the life that you're trying to move toward isn't lighting you up because it's just more of the same. And deep down, you know it. So, what do? Like all of us, you pull everyone around you, waiting for permission, waiting for a reason that will finally motivate you to act. Guess what? No one else can give you permission, sweetheart. Only you can do that. I hated that when I first heard it. And I have since realized it's so true. And then I wonder, why did it take me so long to give myself permission? You are the only one who can decide to step into your agency, to move toward what truly lights you up. Now, for some people, that shift, making that decision, stepping into their agency, that's going to show up as a bold external move. Everyone's going to notice. And then for others like me, sometimes it's an internal shift, the kind that, well, suddenly you can do emotional gymnastics when before you couldn't even touch your metaphorical toes. I know this because for years, I polled people about everything. Should I buy this? Should I study that? Should I take this job, go on this vacation? I tried so hard to make the right choice that I ended up living someone else's life. I had the vacations. I had the designer wardrobe, the marriage, the title, the sexy, sunny apartment in the middle of the big city. And yet, despite all of it, I did not have an extraordinary life because that life wasn't mine. It was made to fit the mask I was wearing. And I finally gave myself permission to stop wearing the mask, to show up authentically and make decisions that reflected my wants, my needs, whether it looked extraordinary to other people or not. Pausing for a moment, let's turn the mic to you. Does your life feel extraordinary? I spent decades tolerating life and settling for less than I wanted. And I can tell you from experience, an extraordinary life is absolutely possible. If you didn't just shout yes with delicious excitement bubbling up inside you, then guess what? You're not living the life you were meant for. That's where our signature program, Extraordinary Lives, comes in. Join us today and connect with other high-achieving women who are designing their version of an extraordinary life, one that feels as good as it looks. We created this program at the intersection of our deep training and our real life experience because we've used these tools ourselves to get unstuck. Now it's your turn. Break out of limiting beliefs. Step into a life that makes you pinch yourself. Because we believe in you, we're giving away a limited number of free spots in our pilot program launching in March. DM us Extraordinary to find out more. I gave myself permission to choose the life that feels extraordinary to me. But so, how did I do that? How do you give yourself permission? That sounds like such a vague instruction, kind of like it comes from the ether, right? Just wave your wand, give yourself permission. Well, you know what? It isn't rocket science. It is something that you can grow like a muscle and practice like going to the gym. The first thing I did is I got quiet. I listened to the voice inside of me, the one that I had drowned out for years, trying to be good, to be loved, to be acceptable. I got quiet enough to hear it, and I listened to what she had to say. And then I learned to comfort the part of me that had been abandoned every time I prioritized external validation over my own knowing. And hearing her and listening to her and offering her comfort, that changed my trajectory because I began to be able to give myself permission. And in all of that, I learned that the most important love story of my life was going to be with myself. Now I'm going to be real. It wasn't all smooth sailing. There were nights spent crying on the kitchen floor. There were bottles of wine opened just to drown out the discomfort. And there were moments where I started something aligned. I did this many times. Only I would start something and then second guess myself, pull the crowd, and quit or start something else, which meant I got absolutely nowhere. But in all of that, I learned. In that journey, I learned to trust myself, to love myself, to give myself permission. And it wasn't overnight, and it was absolutely step by step. But eventually, I was able to strengthen that muscle enough that I gave myself permission to leave the 9 to 5. I gave myself permission to say no and to choose self-care that wasn't selfish and to sit with the discomfort and hold my teenage self in my arms. I gave myself permission to feel the guilt, which, by the way, doesn't go away, and the disapproval that I detest, and to really choose to disappoint others in order to not abandon myself. And the reason I can do that is because I learned to manage the energy. Ultimately, it's all about energy. Even resistance is just energy, and you can shift it. And it is a superpower, and it is the doorway to an extraordinary life. If you want to learn to work with your energy, to get in touch with its magic and turn it towards what lights you up and find the community that amplifies your brilliance, come work with me. Click on the Calendly link in the show notes and schedule a discovery call today. The last person that made an appointment clicked on the link because she was ready to forgive herself for abandoning herself, and she was ready to start having her own back. So give yourself that gift today. It is life-changing. And it is not only life-changing, it is absolutely possible. I've lived it. And I know that forgiving yourself, tapping into your abundance, and changing the trajectory of your rocket ship, it's not rocket science. And I can teach you the simple steps that if you are consistent, they will get you to the moon and beyond. But going back to the topic of resistance, I have seen this pattern of not allowing yourself, of thinking it's selfish or procrastinating and not getting traction, of not starting, of saying you will when. I have seen those fears, the responsibility, the judgment get in people's way, get in my own way. I mean, I resisted quitting my job for years. I told myself I had a big title and a salary to match, so I shouldn't want more. Like, I literally told myself I shouldn't desire what I was desiring. How backwards is that? And I also told myself I didn't have the time. I was too busy this quarter. I'd look at making a change when I had more free time, which of course never arrived. And I also told myself that when I had enough of what? Well, bloody well anything and everything. When I had enough savings, when I had enough support, when I had enough of a track record. Literally, it was like I didn't have anything with all the resources I would tell myself I was missing. And of course, I downplayed my ability, telling myself that I was doing a good job here, but if I jumped to another organization, well, then I would need X, Y, or Z skill, right? Which, like the resources, those skills were anything and everything, and they changed by the day. Impossible to get a grasp on. But very luckily, life handed me an opportunity, a giant doorway. But, like, how many times do you get to a doorway and you think that actually it's a bloody high ledge and somebody is pushing you off? When my son was diagnosed with autism, it certainly didn't feel like a doorway. In fact, the phrase that comes to my head is that rock in a hard place. I felt totally stuck, but it was the impetus, the nudge, the situation that I finally sank into, and I stopped resisting. I stopped thinking I could be 220% of a person and still feel good about life. And when I stopped resisting, life started flowing. Does that sound familiar? But before I go into how you can shift your energy and change how you approach life, I want to talk a little bit about why thoughts and energy, why that matters more than you think it does. So thoughts are not just ideas floating around in your mind. They are energy. What you think creates your emotional state, which influences your actions. Your emotional state is why you choose to do what you do or don't do. And then those actions or inactions shape your reality. And then it's a feedback loop. So let me give you an example. Imagine you're walking into a room where two people just had an argument. And even if those two people do not have frowns on their face and they're at opposite ends of the room at their computers, you can feel the tension. Even if nobody says a word, right? That is the energy at play. You are picking up on the lingering emotions and the lingering thoughts that carry an energetic charge. So when you're resisting change, it's not a mental block. It's an energetic block. So I'm going to repeat what I just said because it's important. Your thoughts are energy. I know you probably heard this somewhere else, but sit with it for a minute. So the thoughts that you are thinking create a vibration. and your vibration determines what you attract. And if you're stuck, it's because you're holding on to a thought pattern that is keeping you in the same loop. And you've got the equation backwards. All the questions show that you need to have first. You need to have the degree, the right body, the job, the house, the perfect social media presence, the permission. And then once you have all of that, you can do the thing that will finally let you be the person that you dream of becoming. But that's inverse, and it is a one-way ticket to waiting forever. Trust me, I know. I spent 2 decades there, and spending 2 decades there, it begins to feel like truth. But the truth, you actually have to flip the script. The having comes from the being. You embody the energy first. You become the light, and then you do from that space. And when you do that, the having just happens. Now that sounds great, right? But if you were like me, you're looking around at all the people who you see who can do this, and it just feels like magic. You feel like you're not lucky, like something just isn't lining up for you. And it actually increases the stuckness that you feel. So let's look very specifically at how you hold on to that light, how you become that and embody that energy when your external reality doesn't reflect it. When your life doesn't quite match that vision, how do you stay in that energy? Because to get different results, to change your life, you don't just need to change your actions. You actually need to shift the energy behind them. So let's look at how you do that, and specifically how you do that when the circumstances that you're in do not reflect the vision, the dream that you're moving toward. So the first thing is that you change your physical energy. Your mind, it follows your body. So if you're feeling stuck, move. Go for a quick walk, shake it out, stretch, anything to get your physical energy unstuck. So if you've listened to any of the other episodes, you'll know that my favorite thing to do is breath work. And I often really specifically do that because my mind chatters like a monkey. That girl never stops. She never shuts up. And she likes to do metacognition. So I'm thinking about the thing, thinking about me, thinking about the thing, thinking about me, thinking about the thing, thinking about the thing. Literally, I get lost in it. It's like a vortex sometimes. So I do breath work before I meditate. Idun, my co-founder, she loves to dance. Whatever you do, you need to move. You need to change your physical energy. So try this. Stand up right now and jump up and down for 15 seconds. You will notice an immediate energy shift. Even if it's not huge, you'll notice a small one. So that's the first step. The second thing you're going to do is rewrite your story. How you see yourself determines how you feel about yourself. And how you feel about yourself determines what you believe is possible. And what you believe is possible, that determines those choices that you make or don't make. And those choices, those actions or inactions add up to the reality that you have. So let me give you an example. When I found myself pregnant and single and alone in a foreign country, I had 2 choices. I could tell myself I was doomed, right? And I was going to struggle. Or I could tell myself that I was strong enough to build a new support system and create something better. While overall I did the second, I certainly told myself the first story that I was going to struggle quite a bit. And then I did. I went back and forth for a very long time, right up until I figured this out. The story that you tell yourself matters because your brain will take it as truth and act accordingly. So the situation that I'm in right now has even more uncertainty and more, maybe technically struggle than it had when I was a single mother and pregnant, alone in a foreign country. And yet, I'm in 2 different worlds. Absolutely 2 different worlds. It's because I got the story straight this time. You can get your story straight. So get out a journal. Go and grab a journal right now and write down your current resistance. What is it saying to you? What is it telling you? What energy is it communicating to you? Mine always told me, you don't have time. You're not good enough. What if you fail? So write it down. You are literally taking the energy out of your body and putting it on paper so that that energy isn't contaminating your energy, your aura, your whatever you want to call it, your outlook on life, your mood, your feeling inside. Get it out, write it down. And then, after you know very specifically what it's saying, challenge it. Your mind isn't a black box, right? It's in your skull. It is literally blind, deaf, and dumb. It believes whatever you tell it. That is so useful. So write the opposite version, right? If mine tells me I don't have time, I tell it, absolutely you do. You make time for what matters. I, Megan, make time for what matters. If it told me you're not good enough, I say, no way. I am so capable. Look at all these things that I've done. I actually raised a son. He's 8 now, and I worked full time doing it. I moved overseas. I left the 9 to 5 and started my own business. I have a million examples of things I've done that were hard and that I was capable of doing that not everybody has done. So when it tells me I'm not good enough, I challenge it and say, I'm capable, baby. It asks, what if you fail? Which then leads to procrastination, doesn't it? That never getting started. And so my challenge to that is, what if I succeed? If I have a 50% shot at both, I'm taking the 50% bet on that I am going to succeed because the statement before, I'm capable and I make time for what matters. Just shifting your language like this, it starts changing the energy of your thoughts. And what does that do? The energy of your thoughts starts to change how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your potential, how you feel about your possibility, your realities around you. So what is your story? The story you want to be true, because it can be. Oh, baby, it can be. It is so possible, and it is so simple. But the simplest things aren't necessarily the easiest, right? I mean, it took me decades to master these. And it's not 100% perfect. It's just 80% different. And that 80% difference is life-changing. You don't have to do it perfectly. You've just got to do it a lot more consistently. And so what happens if that new story that you're telling yourself, that you're capable, that you make time for things that matter, that you can do it, and that you might succeed? What if that story feels fake or feels impossible? That's where you use the power of imagination. You picture yourself doing the thing that feels fake, that feels impossible. And you picture it long enough that in that moment, it becomes real. Your mind, I mean, all of those things where you fall into the Netflix or you read the books and they are more real than your actual life, that is the power of your mind to let go and use the imagination. So you have it, you know you can use it. You fall into a film, you fall into a song, and the emotions that this film or the song are communicating are more real than your reality. The heartbreak of love, that's not yours. That's something you just watched, but you're crying because of it. That's what I mean. You can do this. You can do this for the thing that you make up about yourself. So if that news story feels fake, feels impossible, picture it in your mind like a film, add music to it, and make it real. And build your emotional connection to it. And then practice. That's what this is about. Practice stepping into it daily. Something will shift and you'll notice it. Your actions will start to come from that energy, and your life begins to close the gap between what you want and what you have. So come from the energy of abundance. Again, your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined. Watching Grey's Anatomy, I would sob as if it was my own mother who died, but she was very much alive. But I could feel her death through Grey's Anatomy. So vividly imagine your news story, the positive news story. Stop focusing on the gap right? Because that's what you're looking at is the gap between where you are and where you want to be. The fact that you're not there. You focus on embodying the dream now. You step into the future. You live as if you are her, as if you already have this life, as if you've solved the problem in front of you. And it's no longer a problem. When you act from abundance instead of scarcity, you make wildly different choices. I've seen it happen over and over. In fact, I have a client, she swore that she wasn't lucky. She couldn't live her dream life because she wasn't one of the lucky ones. She stayed stuck in jobs she hated until she changed her story. And then she moved countries. She started her own business. And even though everyone told her it wasn't a responsible thing to do, guess what? It worked because she stopped waiting for permission. She stepped into her power. And now it's your turn. As you do this, you will hit resistance. We all do. But it does not have to keep you stuck. You have to recognize that it's energy. It's fear, it's responsibilities, it's judgments piling up. You are in control of all of those things. And your thoughts are energy. And that energy of your thoughts, it shapes your reality. And shifting even a small part of it, just a little bitty bit of it, can open up a whole new way of being. So I want to hear from you. What is the biggest area where you feel resistance right now? Send me a DM at me_reimagined_community. We'll put the link in the show notes. Or share your story in the Me Reimagined community on Facebook. Or write it down and then use the hashtag #MeReimagined. Let's shift this together. You're not alone. Come, share it with us. And if you know someone else who is stuck, who is facing the biggest energetic resistance on the planet, then send them this episode. What a difference you will make in their life. Today, I feel thankful for manifesting magic. A while back, I started acting from that space of future me, and now the fruits are so juicy that they are running down my chin. In this juiciness, a new friend just sent me a song that she wrote. The intimacy of it, the vulnerability of it, that is exactly the kind of meaningful connection I have been manifesting. Last night, I went to a gong bath immersion with my son, and holding hands and smiling with him as we felt the vibration ripple through our bodies was literally divine. How do I deserve this life? 2 years ago, neither of those things was possible. Change your energy. It is worth it, and it gives you an absolutely different life. I am also feeling so thankful for you all, you magical unicorns shining with magnetic, energetic thoughts that are bringing you exactly what your heart most desires. I am so grateful that you are choosing yourselves. I've said it. I put the energy out into the world. Receive that. Choose yourself. Choose this community. Change the world. With love. Until next time.